Hey friends, it's Becky L. McCoy, and this is Sucker Punched. This is episode 2 of the mental illness series on Sucker Punch podcast. I'm Becky, and I'm really glad that you're here today. Today's episode, I'm talking with Jenny Randle. She has a great book out called 31 Day Create, and I think when we recorded this episode, it was long before the book was published because I've been holding on to this one for a while. So bear with us if the timeline of our conversation seems weird, because it is. But I appreciate that you all are such givers of grace and understanding that life happens. And so, yeah. Anyways, here is my conversation with Jenny. I am here today with Jenny Randle, and we are going to talk about depression in this episode. We're going to talk about what it's like to have depression and what it's like to be the spouse of someone who has depression. So, Jenny, share with us a little bit about you guys made a cross-country move, and you had 2 little babies, and lots of stuff happened all at the same time. And how did that affect your family?
So my husband and I lived in California for a while, and we were pregnant, and we were trying to we wanted to live by family. So we were kind of applying for jobs by both sets of parents, and New York won. So we moved cross country.
Okay.
And we had a 3-month-old at the time, and we had our babies back to back. So they're 18 months apart. So we had 2 little kids, and trying to fit into the culture. It was such a change for my surfer husband, who was just so used to that lifestyle. And so he really struggled in navigating all those big changes. I mean, a new job, trying to find a house to live in. We were living with my parents for a while, and there was just a lot that all happened at once. After back-to-back babies, and I had preeclampsia when I was pregnant. So, I mean, I was on bed rest, so he had to do a lot. And it was just a lot of stuff that when you're in it, you don't realize what toll it's taking on you until you get kind of through it, and you step back and you're like, oh man, I'm not feeling right, or I'm kind of feeling depressed. So when my little daughter was about 1, and my son was 2.5, we kind of started talking about how my husband, Matt, he just wasn't acting the way he used to. It's like the joy was sucked out of him, and he was tired all the time. And he himself was battling health problems. So around that stage of the game, we kind of reevaluating, what's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, he started, talking. It took a while for him to start the conversation, because he'd be like, what do you mean? I'm fine. I'm just tired all the time. But once he started saying, okay, maybe something isn't right, and kind of started dialoguing about it, it kind of propelled him into action. But it took a few months of kind of saying, no, I don't think this isn't how you normally are. Something's going on. So.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I feel like it's such a gradual, you just kind of drift into depression and you just don't even realize what's happened.
Yeah, once you're on the other side of it, looking back, it's like, oh, that was a lot heavier than we even realized in that moment. And that was really hard. And praise God we got through it, because it can really take its toll. So
for sure.
On the whole family too. So it's not, my husband and I were talking about it last night, because of course he knows I'm coming on this podcast, and I was like, what do you want to share? And he was feeling almost like a sadness, because he could see the toll that it was taking on our family. And it wasn't anything intentional. I wasn't moping around being like, you're so depressed.
You're ruining our life.
Yeah. It wasn't like that, but it was almost like he carried this guilt with it or something. So I don't know. Depression's hard.
So how did it affect you?
He isolated from a lot of our friends and even family. He is the best dad in the whole entire world. So he just, in his mind, he has an engineer mind where it's once maybe that's not the right way to categorize it, but once he commits to doing something, he just follows through. So
Right.
in his mind, he's like, I'm going to just be the best dad I can be. Like that was his main focus. So that in that regards, nothing wavered there. Like he could put on a happy face and like bring out that joy when he was with our kids and serving our family. But other than that, he really isolated from family and friends. And that was the biggest thing, the biggest change that I saw, where it's like, man, usually you love hanging out with our friends and family and you get a lot of joy from that. But he just stopped even figuring out how to carry on conversations with people.
Yeah.
So it was hard from a social setting too. Like, oh, why aren't we hanging out with our friends anymore? Like, why aren't we doing the things we used to do? Why is life so different?
So when he got to the point of taking action and looking for help, getting help, what did that look like for him?
Yeah, he had a lot of mystery health problems too that were unknown.
Hmm.
So he was bouncing around to all these different doctors, and they were all so baffled because he looks like a healthy guy. I mean, he's he looks healthy. So they were always like, this is so weird. What are these mystery things? So one doctor kind of figured out that he has a kidney issue, and then another doctor figured out that he had sleep apnea, which of course, if you're not sleeping, of course you're going to be lethargic and
Yeah,
depressed. And
for sure.
so he got a sleep apnea machine, which I don't know if you know how loud that is, but it's
Yeah.
like so
It's
loud.
like your own personal Darth Vader.
Yeah, I'm like, can you tone it down over there? I mean, I appreciate that you can sleep now, but like, I don't
Yeah.
know. So that's funny. But so yeah, he started getting better sleep, and that kind of was the catalyst for him to finally say, okay, well now I can figure out this whole counseling thing.
Mm-hmm.
So his work has, let's see, what's it called? ETA. Have you heard of that?
No.
Or EAP. I just made up those letters.
That's
EAP.
okay. That's cool.
It's this. They have this flyer in the work where it's like, if you're struggling with mental illness, you can. It's basically like free counseling, so you get 5 free sessions.
Okay.
So he ended up setting that up, and that kind of helped him take further steps in getting help. And he also had his thyroid tested, and they're like, oh, well, of course you have thyroid problems, which that was
Oh.
a surprise. So he changed his diet and he went gluten free. And when we were talking last night, he said that was the best thing for him. That really was the biggest catalyst of kind of helping him overcome the depression, which is fascinating because, you're fueled by what you eat and you don't really think about it. So him
Yeah.
just changing his diet alone kind of helped in huge ways.
Wow. Did he ever try medication?
Yes, thanks for asking. Yes, he did do medication, and he does have anxiety medicine if he can feel like his anxiety building up or if he
Mm-hmm.
has trouble sleeping at night. He can take it as needed. He tries not to rely on it. I mean, we're Christians and he'll read scripture and pray and kind of navigate things from a spiritual context as well. But
Mm-hmm.
the safety net in the medicine is there as
Yeah,
needed. So
for
it's been
sure.
helpful. It's been helpful.
Do you feel like this is something that he still struggles with, or like he's going to struggle with for a long time? Or was this something that maybe it's kind of always underlying, but really it was because stress in life was just so high in that period of time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I do know that kind of his downward spiral has made us more aware
Mm-hmm.
of like looking out for what his depression can look like. Because
Yeah,
I think it can appear different for different people.
for sure.
Um, I struggled through depression in college and was just straight up a hot mess for like a year. So that was what I look like when I'm depressed. But for him, he could still like function. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I hope it's not there forever, but he is still, doing like regular checkups with our doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and we do know what it looks like when you hit those lows, so we can get out of it. But yeah, he seems to be doing great now, and yeah, really seems to be a lot healthier since
Mm-hmm.
since we kind of walked through those changes and got the help we needed or he needed.
Yeah. What was it like for you when he got diagnosed? You realized it's depression and you kind of hadn't seen like the signs. Like you said, I mean, there are like
Yeah.
4 or 5 typical symptoms of depression, but people don't. always exhibit all or any of them. And did you feel like you should have noticed because you'd had
Oh, for
depression
sure.
before?
Yeah, I felt like a dork, honestly. Like I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
Ding! Yeah.
Like here I am, like, why are you sleeping all the time? Like what? Like,
Yeah.
but duh, like those are signs of depression. So I had to go through this process being like, I'm so sorry. And like
Yeah.
I felt really sad that I didn't notice it. Especially because I went through it. But I mean, not to make excuses. Well, I guess I am making excuses. We have two really small kids, so it's like at the end of the day, you're both just so wiped out. You're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I definitely wish I paid more attention and that we had the conversation sooner. For sure, I do. But he did say he wanted me to tell everybody this, that he's like, make sure to say this. His
Okay.
depression for him was a huge catalyst for him to kind of become self-aware and to reevaluate his main things in life.
Mm.
And because of it, he realized that he was so unhappy in his job. And like there were a few things that he was just so unsatisfied and feeling like could change. So because he was struggling through that oppression, it made it more apparent and he was able to change those things. So, I mean, yeah, depression's horrible and bad, but I mean, there's that Bible verse, God can use all things for good. So we have seen the good in it.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, for sure. It just gives you a different perspective on life and what things you're listening to or being motivated by and
Yeah.
what you actually want to be influenced by.
Yeah, that's good.
So when he was in the dark place, as I like to say, like when it's really at its worst, did you ever feel resentful or bitter that he wasn't as engaged or normal feeling as usual, especially since you had two little kids and whatnot?
Man, that's deep. I don't know if bitter would be the right word, but I definitely would feel frustrated.
Yeah.
Like, why are you letting it win?
Yeah.
Because, joy can be a choice too. It can get complicated, especially from a spiritual context too. It's like there's a lot that goes into it. So yeah, I would find myself getting frustrated. But then that's just me not being very holy. So then I'd have to repent and be like, okay, how can I love my husband better?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't always doing that because I'm selfish and humans are selfish, which is not the best way to be. So yeah, I had to go through my own like self-awareness too in it.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times adjusting our expectations, like you kind
That's
of
good.
have that loss of, you know, we have these little kids and we're going to do it together and like this is how it's going to look, and then depression creeps in and it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and I love what you said, adjust your expectations because it's so true. When I was struggling, when I had preeclampsia with both our pregnancies, like he had to adjust his expectations and he served me and like had to bring me meals and all this stuff. And when we romanticize the process of what life looks like together and it doesn't end up that way, it can be confusing and you have to shift things in your own mind to kind of overcome that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's shift gears for a second and talk a little bit about your own personal experience with depression. So you said it was in college.
Yep.
And what was the situation?
I was in some unhealthy relationships with some dudes, not at the same time, back to back boyfriends.
That's
I wasn't
awesome.
simultaneously dating. Let's not go there. That would be crazy. No, I
Podcast
had some.
just took a turn.
I know. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
No, I had some unhealthy relationships, and I was really affected by it. One was extremely deceptive, and all the things like, oh, we're gonna get married, and all these things that I felt would happen were just all lies and deception. So it really caused a lot of heartache and confusion. So I remember in college, I took a psych class and they were like, okay, you guys can skip today's class if you go to the mental health fair and take a mental evaluation or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So my friend and I were like, yeah, let's skip. So we skipped. I'm like, bonus points. So we skipped and we took the test and they're like, ooh, we might think you might be depressed. You should go to the on-campus doctor or whatever. And I was like, oh, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah, I would have rather be in class. But that taking that questionnaire or test or whatever it's called, like really helped me realize like, okay, the way I'm feeling has a label. And I hate labels, but like almost seeing that gave me permission to go get help and go ask for help and like talk to my parents about it. And rather than just feeling like a sad girl that's crying in the corner, like, oh, okay, maybe this is actually depression and seek out counsel and help. So,
yeah.
And I did have this other moment in with another professor where I was so focused on the projects I was doing and like so focused on because I had this mentality like the more I did, the more I could be loved. Right. Like we all have this weird baggage or whatever. So that was mine.
Yeah.
Like the more I serve, the better I do, the more I'll be loved. And so I was doing this project and the class ended and I was talking to my professor. I studied television, which is the best major ever.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So my video project ended and we were kind of recapping and I was telling him, man, I feel kind of depressed. And he's like, well, do you think you're depressed because the project ended and you lost your purpose? And that question really was like it was one of those like magical Jesus moments where you're like, oh, it hurts so much, but it feels so good because that's what it was. Like my purpose wasn't performing. My purpose wasn't in my relationship with God and like glorifying him in the midst of whatever I was in. So that question really helped me kind of reevaluate too, like, what am I focusing on? Because I was focusing on the wrong stuff. And it's great to be good at things and, you know, excel in areas, but also what are you focusing on? It should be, you know, glorifying God and in him, like glorifying him in the stuff you're in. So that helped me like refocus and even in the depression, like how can I glorify God in this kind of catapulted me out of it.
Usually this is the part in the podcast where I ask you to subscribe and rate and review and share this podcast. And while I would love if you do that, what I really want you to do is just take a second, stop whatever you're doing, and listen, because I'm so excited to share this with you. We all have so many things that we want to change about our lives. We want to learn more about this. We want to improve these habits. We want to exercise more. We want to sleep better. And what do we actually do other than just pin stuff to Pinterest about how to do these things better? Not much. What if I told you you could change the way you live and not get out of your PJs? That's right. You sit on your couch with your favorite hot beverage, tea, coffee, maybe it's just ice water. You stay in your PJs or your comfy clothes, and you can change the way that you live. It's true. In fact, on September 9th, that is just 1 month away, I am hosting the Brave Together virtual retreat. It's like a retreat or a conference, but it's all on your computer. So you sit at home, you can maybe meet up with friends and do it together. You get a participant guide. It's just like a retreat or a conference, except it's all online. So you can literally stay in your pajamas the whole time and you don't have to have small talk with anyone. Like, this is an introvert's delight. But for you extroverts, there's going to be like a chat feature, kind of a la instant messenger from like 10 years ago, where we can talk with each other and interact and process what we're learning as the event is going on. But there's no video or anything, so you can be your hot mess self. It's going to be awesome. If you want more information, go to beckylmccoy.com/Brave Together Virtual Retreat. That's no spaces, nothing. Just beckylmccoy.com/Brave Together Retreat. The first 20 people get a discount of $13. You pay $13 for your registration, and that includes the recording afterwards. So if you can't even make it on the day, or like one of your kids is sick and you can't even attend, or say something comes up at work that you have to handle, or you're going on a fabulous vacation that weekend, it's fun. You just register anyways, and then after the retreat, the playback will show up in your inbox. So you can enjoy this no matter what your day looks like on September 9th. So make sure that you register soon. All registrations before August 22nd get the reporting for free, and after that you'll have to purchase it separately. So I hope that you will join me in your PJs. I will certainly have my PJs on, and it's going to be really awesome. The speakers that we're having are great, and you can get all the information that you need at BeckyAlMcCoy.com/Brave Together Virtual Retreat. All right, back to my conversation with Jenny. So what practical things helped you to move out of it?
I was on meds for a while. I would go to counseling. I mean, and I believe healing can come in an instant, and it can also be a process.
Yep.
For me, it was a long process. Seasons changing and dating again brought depression back on. So it was maybe like a 5-year process before I could like fully get off the meds and really really step into that full healing. So it was a process for me, for sure. But I'm glad I walked through it, because on the other side, you're like, wow, like I did really overcome a lot, and praise God for it, because I was definitely a hot mess.
Right. Well, and that's what, when I talk to people about their depression and they're, saying like, I should just be able to do this. Like, wait a second. This is not easy. This is not simple. Yeah. This is not just like turning your frown upside down. Like, this is
for sure
like some real like soul work
that's a good way to put it.
That it takes to climb out of that pit, because there's no love.
I mean, my community of friends was amazing. Like, I mean, depression's weird. Have you struggled through depression?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. She's nodding her head. For
a solemn nod.
A solemn nod. It's so hard, because you're just like, I would watch TV, I'm so depressed, just watch TV. I literally couldn't retain anything that was even happening on the show. You don't remember stuff. Like, I would play video games and like don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. You're just in this massive fog. Yep. And you don't want to go. For me, I didn't want to go to class. I didn't want to do the things I normally did. You're not really eating, or you like overeat. Like, it's just so dynamic in the way you can express that depression or how it manifests. And yeah, it was messy. I mean, my best friend would walk me to class, and he would wait until I got done, and like he would walk me to the counseling session to make sure I'd go in. Like, there was a lot of people that loved me through it and like prayed me through it, that if they weren't in my life, I might still be stuck in that mess. Like, so community is huge. Huge.
Yeah, because you're in that, you have that fog feeling. It's so isolating.
Yes.
Because you may not even realize how thick the fog is. But you're just like struggling to put one foot in front of the other. And you could look totally fine, because depression doesn't always mean sadness.
Yeah.
But like this last depression episode that I had, it got to the point where I felt like I was so tired. I must have a newborn, because I've never been this tired in my whole life. But why? Like, there is no reason why I should be this tired. And like you said, like, not remembering, you could watch the same TV episode over and over again, and it'll be brand new every time. Like, you're just not like really present. Yeah, for sure.
I remember there was one night I felt like that, and I was just so out of it, and just like, you're so depressed, and like, but you want to be better. You desperately like, it's just confusing. So I remember praying, and I'm like, God, man, I just want you to use me. I know I'm not like exuberating joy in this moment, but I still just want you to use me. And the next day I was walking on campus. This is a crazy story. I was walking on campus, and I saw a friend, and I felt like God was like, go ask her if she's pregnant. And I'm like, God, you're crazy. Like, what, have you lost your mind?
Yeah.
Like, so I remember like kind of battling that for a second. And then I'm like, whatever, like, let me go investigate. Because she didn't look pregnant. So I walked over, and I'm like, oh, how you doing? She said, fine. I just have a random question. Like, are you pregnant? And her eyes got really big and she started crying and she's like, "Oh my gosh, only one person knows. Like, how did you know that?" And this wasn't a moment that it's like, oh, like it wasn't about
Yeah.
me, but it was about God using me to speak life into her situation because she was at
Mm,
a point where she's like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? I
mm-hmm,
feel so alone. The feelings I was feeling, I felt so alone, and
mm-hmm,
God was bringing her community, and and the biggest takeaway for me was like, even when we feel like a hot mess, even when we're depressed and crying in the corner, and I'm being dramatic about it, but like that's what it was for me, just crying in the corner, like
mm-hmm.
God will still use you. All you have to do is just be willing to be obedient and do those hard things. And it's like over time, all these magical, I call them magical Jesus moments, all these magical Jesus moments, they make up our story and they can even help bring us greater healing because in the obedience, like joy can come and it's just, I mean, it's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool because God's in it.
for sure. So, what would you say to the young woman who is kind of feeling like she's a total hot mess, and or maybe just took a health, a mental health survey, or is just kind of trying to figure out like, what do I do? How do I navigate this? What's next?
Yeah. I would say, I'm sorry you're going through this. I know what it's like. You definitely are not alone. Reach out to the people that you trust, ask for prayer, and also ask for help. If you have
Mm-hmm.
little kids, be vulnerable and say, "Hey, can you watch my kids?" And I think you're going to be surprised with the response you get. People want to help you, people want to serve you, and just take it not even one day at a time, but like 1 minute at a time. Like
Yep.
if you need a break from watching the kids, like give yourself grace and like put on some Sesame Street. Like,
Yes.
like you don't have to be super mom all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
extend grace to yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
and think, okay, what would I the question you asked, think that for yourself. Like what would I be telling a friend if they were going through depression? And then
Mm-hmm.
extend that same grace to yourself.
For sure. How would you encourage someone whose spouse is struggling with depression?
Oh man, don't don't be selfish. That was what I was struggling with. Just think of this as an opportunity to serve your spouse and to serve them well and do nightly check-ins like, "Oh, hey, do you need help with anything or is there anything you're feeling overwhelmed with that I can take off your plate?" And my husband and I actually are in this online counseling class. It's called Creative Couples and it's online and we're just doing it to help maintain all the work that Matt has already done of like walking through the depression and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way, like, find resources so you can reconnect again and so you can even talk about the hard stuff.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so before we get to the fun questions, I just want to put in a little plug because Jenny was on the happy hour with Jamie Ivey in, I think it was the first week of April. And this episode was awesome. like,
Thanks.
she talks a little bit about this stuff, but a lot about what she does. So why don't you give us like the elevator pitch, like the 30-second spiel on the work that you're doing because it's pretty amazing.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, you were having me crack up when you texted me that you were watching
Yeah.
or listening. I'm folding laundry and listening. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so I help people strengthen their creative process so that they can maximize their impact for Jesus. I believe that we all have purpose, and intertwined with that is a creativity that we kind of let go of as we grow older. So I love kind of respark that in people so that they can impact the world for Jesus. So.
Yeah, it's so awesome because it's so true. Like, there are so many adults that kind of view creativity as a childish adolescent thing. When Jeff Goins was starting research for his newest book, I think the title now is Artists Don't Starve or something like that. So he had put out a survey like, tell me what you think about creativity and all this stuff. And I just wrote in, it was like, I studied physics and dance, and in my brain, those things go so well together because in physics, you have to be creative. You have to solve problems. These are all highly creative things. Uh,
Yeah.
but we just don't always think about creativity in that way.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Even in communication, like the way you communicate with your spouse, there's a lot of creative ways you can
Yeah.
do to
Yeah.
communicate, or even with your kids. I love podcasts. I love that you're doing this podcast, and that's a creative outlet too. And I believe that people have books inside of them that they need to write, but they're
Yeah.
stuck being like, I'm not creative enough, or
Right.
even songs to sing, or
Mm-hmm.
so much stuff. There's so much out there that God wants to use us for, but we just
Yep.
limit ourselves by saying, I'm not creative enough.
Yeah. So if you hear yourself in that sentence, I'm not creative enough, go listen to Jenny's episode with Jamie Ivey on the Happy Hour because it's awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
So, fun questions. Just whatever comes to mind.
I'm nervous. I am not spontaneous, so this might be all right.
That's okay.
I'm ready.
You can pause. We can edit the pause out later. All right. What are you loving right now?
I am loving spending time with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Does that count? Because we kind of transitioned. My husband and I started a business, and we're kind of navigating the work from home family life. So I'm really getting fueled by spending time with my kids. They're pretty funny.
Yeah, and you said they're 4 and 5.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty hilarious age for sure. What is your favorite meal or snack or food or something?
I love spaghetti and meatballs and garlic bread.
Ooh,
Like,
yum.
so good. I had an Italian grandma, and like she was the cook of the family. That was because of that. It's my favorite. It tastes so good.
For sure. Now, do you have her meatball and sauce recipe?
Yes.
Good.
My dad has carried it on.
Yeah. Yeah, we have our families. And it's like, I just can't even make anything else. Like, why bother?
Is it your favorite food?
I wouldn't say like my absolute favorite, but there is nothing quite like it. Like,
Yeah.
You don't ever go to a restaurant and have meatballs. Like,
we should have a meatball competition. See whose recipe is better.
That would be amazing. How can we do that?
I don't know. Pretty sure my cooking skills don't translate like my nana's, my grandma. So I might lose.
The same recipe. Go through all that work and they'd be exactly the same.
And they really just Googled it, and it's not even like an ancient family tradition.
Yeah. Like that episode of Friends where Phoebe's trying to find her grandmother's chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Yes.
Nestle Toll House. So good.
Oh.
What are you doing to take care of yourself?
I am spending time with my friends. I like to read my Bible, and I like to sit in silence drinking my coffee. I need to get back into working out. I did a lot last year, and I kind of phased that out, but I need to get back into it because that was a great way to kind of de-stress for me. So now I'm convicted. Your question has convicted me.
I didn't even say anything. That's all you.
I know. In your silence, I realized I should go on the elliptical. Burn off some of those meatballs.
Yeah, right? Or make room for more.
Yeah. Oh, I like the way you think. Are you a glass empty or glass half empty or glass half full kind of guy?
Oh, half full. Like, all the way. Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure. What about you?
I don't know. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me because I'm not sure how to analyze that. I'm an overanalyzer, so I feel like I don't know. I'll let you know when I look at a glass and tell you.
Well, I understand, because when I think about that question, really, I'd say, well, I'm thirsty, so I'm going to drink the rest of the water, and then I'm going to fill it up again, and then that really doesn't answer your question at all.
And I'm going to fill it to the top, and then I'm going to drink some more.
Right, and it's just, problem solved, so I'll fill it up, then it's just full. There's that creative thinking. What are you doing to live bravely?
Oh, I love that. What am I doing to live bravely? Just being obedient to the things God is asking of me. Even if it's like what happened to me in college, go talk to that girl over there. Like, that's so scary.
Yeah, terrifying.
So last year I prayed for boldness, and that was my prayer for the whole year. Just, God, help me to be brave, help me to be bold. And he answered that prayer because he kept giving me really hard things to do. So that's a bold prayer to even pray. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to continue to carry that momentum in my everyday,
Mm-hmm.
doing hard things and trusting God in it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jenny. You guys can find Jenny in the show notes. All of her social media and her website and everything are there. And be sure to leave her some creative encouragement.
Thanks, guys.
I seriously love talking with Jenny. She is so fun. And you know what? She is one of the speakers at the Brave Together virtual retreat. So if you want to get to know more about her and the stuff that she does with creativity, you can join us at the Brave Together virtual retreat. She'll be there. She's amazing. It's going to be so much fun. Head to beckylmccoy.com/Brave Together virtual retreat. No spaces or anything. Just /Brave Together virtual retreat. I am so excited about it, and I really hope that you'll meet us there. I am terrible at ending these podcast episodes. I never know what to say. It's like, I can't say see you next week. I'm not seeing you. Like, hear you next week. No, I can't hear you either. Talk to you, talk at you next week. I guess that's it. Okay, ready? That's the end of this episode. I'm so glad that Jenny could join us. Talk at you next week.